Hey, Tyler,
Hey, Sam.
did you know that lemurs can earthbend?
Are you, super sure about that, Sam?
What? Of course I am. I just saw one earthbend today.
Well, Sam, there are two problems with that. One, earthbending isn't real. And two, lemurs aren't real.
Hey, Tyler,
Yes, Sam.
are you, super sure about that?
I am not accepting criticism at this point in my life.
Oh, whatever, that doesn't even matter because I'm Sam Albus.
And I'm Tyler Strandberg.
And this is the Avatar Podcast.
Yip Yip.
On this podcast, we watch the Nickelodeon show Avatar The Last Airbender, episode by episode, and discuss it in detail.
We talk about plot, themes, and character development throughout the show, as well as anything else we may notice that's also relevant to what's going on in the Avatar world or what's going on in our world.
At the end of each episode, we'll talk about who our favorite character was, as well as give the episode a rating on a scale of 1 to 10.
You're listening to the Avatar Podcast.
Yip Yip! All right, Tyler. Today we are going to be talking about the 6th episode of Book 1, and it is called
Teacher Sam.
Imprisoned.
Oh my gosh, you just taught me a thing.
I did.
I
taught you the title.
You sounded like a teacher there, so I'm making fun of you for it.
Well, everybody at work says I act like a teacher, so
Congrats, you're doing it now here.
Yes, we're fully sending it today.
Do you want to tell me what I'm going to do next?
You're going to read the synopsis for me.
Okay.
In your best high schooler that
let me
is
stand
not
up
prepared.
and read to the class.
Yeah, your best high schooler that is not prepared for his presentation.
Of course I'm prepared. I counted the people in front of me and then counted the number of paragraphs to figure out which one I would be reading and rehearsed it.
Okay. Just do it.
Okay, here I
Don't
go.
accept my
We're
bit.
stopping this. We're going to be serious. Aang, Katara, and Sokka camp near a small Earth Kingdom town controlled by the Fire Nation, where earthbending is forbidden. Katara convinces a young earthbender named Haru to save an old man using his bending abilities, for which he is consequently imprisoned. In response, Katara devises a plan to have herself arrested to free him. While in the prison, she incites a rebellion, and the inspired prisoners liberate themselves. Afterwards, she realizes she has lost her mother's necklace. Left at the prison, it is discovered and taken by a pursuing Zuko.
Good job.
Thank you. I did do a really good job reading that.
Did.
Usually I stumble up, but I didn't that time. Tell us who wrote it.
Well, first, this episode premiered on Nickelodeon on March 25th, 2005, and it was written by Matthew Hubbard.
Cool. Let's talk about plot and themes.
Yes, let's get into the plot and themes. But before we get into the plot and themes, we have to give credit where credit is due.
Yes, we do. We do. It is due.
Yeah, it is due. So we do give the credit.
We do a lot of research for this podcast. Mostly me. I do most of the research. And I'm gonna be pretty honest. I was struggling with this episode, so I turned to the YouTube. And there was one video that really stuck with me. So a lot of the themes we'll be talking about in this episode will be very similar to that video that we watched. And we wanted to give a shout out to that. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but we will say it in the credits. And it will also be listed in the description below in case you want to watch that video.
Yeah. All right, let's get into it now.
We've talked about this a little bit before. I think the last time we talked about it was the Warriors of Kyoshi. But we are talking about how the Earth Kingdom is based off China. And here we are. The main character is named Haru, which is a Japanese name, and they don't even pronounce it right.
Yeah.
It's so upsetting.
Yep, in Japanese it's Haru. Yeah, it's just kind of, to us, it was like them kind of lumping in all of the East Asian cultures into one just big, it's Asia, so we can put any name and any label we want to on anything because it's just generic Asia, which we think is a little bit lazy and problematic.
Yep. Hopefully it gets better.
Yeah, hopefully it does.
We'll see. So this is the first time we learn what Katara's necklace is. Mm-hmm. We've seen it before. Obviously, she's been wearing it the whole time. But I think this is the first time it's mentioned that we actually know what it is and what it's about.
Yeah, I don't think even when I properly watched it for the first time, I even noticed she was wearing it until
it's just so
out.
ingrained in her character.
Yeah,
it's like her hair loopies. You know,
Yeah,
if she
it's like her
suddenly
hair
like
loopies.
explained her hair loopies, if she was suddenly like, these hair loopies symbolize my dead mom.
My dead. Okay, that's a little bit dark, Tyler. Whoa, I was just like,
We're gonna move on. Okay, Zuko
whatever.
actually finds her necklace. Sam, do you want to talk about why that's weird?
okay, yeah, let's talk about this for a second. So, how the heck did Zuko find the prison? You can like theorize, you know, but it's just like I think it's to the show's detriment that they didn't explain it at all. It's
Yeah.
just a plot hole.
Kid me was probably like, "Oh no, Zuko found it. What's gonna happen now?" But
Yeah, you
adult
didn't even
me-
question it.
Adult me, I'm like, okay, let's get real here. So let's get into the actual, not just like the surface level things we noticed. Let's move on to the actual like themes of this episode. And the first one is not slapped in your face, but it's obviously there, and that is oppression, which is something we've seen a lot, but it's really, really going on here. I like this too because we see so many different forms of it, and we're going to go into that. And it's not a theme that's just smacking you across the face with it.
Yeah,
you know?
I think it's tackled very well and maturely in this episode. So yeah,
agree.
I think we should go through each of these and explain them.
I'd agree. The first one is theft. The Fire Nation is oppressing. The Fire Nation is oppressing this village by stealing things from them in many different forms. Obviously, we see that they're taking their money in the form of taxes, right? The Fire Nation soldier stops by a second time that week. So it's weekly taxes.
Yep.
It's not even like monthly or anything. Weekly taxes.
Yeah, so when like we put taxes quote unquote because they're obviously not taxes.
No.
They're just taking the money from them because they can.
Yeah, I think you said when we were watching the episode that we don't even believe that if that money is actually going to the Fire Nation. It could literally just be the soldiers taking that money for themselves.
I seriously doubt it. I think the soldiers are just taking the money and then keeping it for themselves because that's just they can. And they do. And that's very sad to see.
Yes. Furthermore, the Fire Nation is also taking their resources, mostly their coal. They say that in the episode that they take the coal.
They say like they took our coal. Yeah, they
I don't
take
remember
their coal,
exactly what they say, but they do cover it in the episode.
which is like obviously their main export, their main resource, the main thing that drives the economy in their village, and they're taking it away. So yeah, it's just another form of theft. They take away the money they actually have, and then what makes them money?
And then they take away their only defense that they have for the village, the earthbenders themselves. Which, Sam, we've drawn this conclusion more times than I thought we would, but it really reminds me of a certain war that happened in the 1940s with a country that rhymes with Erminy.
Yes, it is very similar.
Like you said, they take the money and the thing that makes them money, and then they take their defense so that they continue to oppress them in this way.
Very effective.
Yep.
I will say.
I want to jump back to the beginning super quick. We said that Haru's name is actually supposed to be pronounced Haru, but for the sake of the episode, because they constantly call him Haru, that is also what we are going to be calling him, and I don't like it, but it's something we'll deal with.
I don't like it.
So Haru's mother actually gives us a little glimpse into this when she's talking to him and kind of scolding him. And I think that really just speaks to like the threat that the Fire Nation like has over them, the control that they have.
So they're threatening violence to control them.
Yes.
That's what they're doing.
Yes. And it is making the villagers live in fear of being found out or captured. Many of the villagers behave the way that they do because they have been oppressed so much. Everything they have has been taken away from them, and they don't even really try to fight back anymore because they're so afraid of the repercussions they might suffer.
If you make them afraid to like take action or do anything and take away their resources to do so, like that's a very good way to control people. It's also very sad that they live in this fear just constantly. And the show does a good job of, illustrating it. A specific point to it is when Katara and Haru are I hate saying it like that.
Yeah, I know.
When Katara and Haru, find the old man that has had the mind collapsed on him or whatever. And they end up saving him, but then, as we find out later, the old man reported him. And we don't really know why. Tyler, why do you think?
Sam, this is a little bit controversial for me.
Oh, is it? Or do you have a controversial hot take?
I was going to say I might have what you would call a hot take.
Do you have the tea?
No, stop. I'm gay, but not that gay.
Okay.
So, does the old man turn Haru in because he's afraid of the Fire Nation finding out and coming after him as well? Or does he just turn him in because he's a boomer? I think it's the latter.
Okay. I won't unpack all of that right now.
We don't have time. That's a different topic, but I stick firmly to my stance.
Opinion on that is he did it because he was afraid.
I think he's a boomer and he hates millennials.
As we see in history, what happened, I mean, draw another parallel to Nazi Germany. Yeah, I think he did it out of fear. I mean, you see this throughout history. Like, people, you were literally punished if they found out you didn't report things like that to the authorities. Like, earthbending is forbidden. And basically, if they found out you were an earthbender, you were taken away. So, if you see somebody else earthbending and you don't report it and they find out they're an earthbender and found out you are close to them, you also get taken away. Mm-hmm. So that's a very valid, I'm not saying it's right, I'm saying it's valid that he would feel fear and be compelled to turn him in.
There's a difference between sympathizing and understanding where someone is coming from.
Yeah, no, morally speaking.
You can understand where he's coming from, even though you don't agree with what he did was right.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think the last point in fear we want to cover super quickly is like the fear of even just trying to fight back, like we had talked about earlier. There's a really good quote on this part from when Katara is in the prison.
If you don't mind me asking, what's your escape plan?
Excuse me?
You know, the plan to get everyone off the rig? What is it? Mutiny? Sabotage?
The plan is to survive.
I just think that's really sad because it literally shows just how helpless these people think they have become, because the Fire Nation just has so much control over them for so long. They feel like they can't even fight back. They can't even do anything for themselves.
Yeah, they're afraid if they take any sort of action that they are going to get taken away. Their friends and family and the people that are close to them are going to get taken away. Yeah. So that fear is really the root of all of this.
Yeah.
I think this episode does a great job of showing how the Fire Nation oppresses people. I mean, that's the point we're trying to make.
Yes,
but the prisons that they go to, like that, I guess it's like an oil rig, but not.
Yeah.
It's oil rig.
A good way of describing it.
Yeah, an oil rig, but they like burn coal for some reason.
What they're doing.
It's a ship. It's not a ship. It's like fixed in the ground.
It is like a quote unquote oil rig, but what they're doing there is they're burning the coal to make metal, and then they're using that metal to build Fire Nation ships.
I didn't catch that or just forgot. But anyway, they are literally like concentration camp. Not like they are concentration camps. They are getting together a specific group of people, in this case, earthbenders, which is arguably an ethnicity, into one area, and then like putting them to work, forcing them to work, treating them inhumanely, like less than human.
Yeah.
Let's look at a straight up quote from the warden.
Yeah.
Are we calling him the warden?
Yeah, I think that's his name.
Okay, here's a quote from the warden.
If you have any illusions about employing that brutish savagery that passes for bending among you people, forget them.
He's calling them people that are less than
Yes.
Then
it's
firebenders.
very reminiscent of actually the like English colonizers when they came to North America, the way they treated the indigenous people. Just like constantly referring to them as savages, which I think is another parallel that.
It's because they have a different culture.
Yeah.
That was excellent voice acting by George Takei.
Yes, that's right. I forgot about that. George Takei was the guest artist in this episode.
And he does a great job.
He does. Good for him. I'm so proud of
that quote. Just good writing, just great writing, because it's just like, it's obviously influenced by historical context, and like it just like perfectly encapsulates Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, we
Y'all
talked-
get what I'm saying.
We talked about how the prisoners are afraid to do anything for themselves out of fear, and that actually kind of leads to our next point, which is the overall, like, this kind of fits into everything, and that's self-control and censorship. The Fire Nation soldiers have oppressed these people so much that they are starting to censor themselves. They don't have to. We see so many times that the Fire Nation soldiers in this village are so incompetent. Like, they have no idea what's going on. They literally just mess around all of the time. They think Momo is earthbending. Like, it's clearly airbending that's lifting up the rock.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous that you would even think, A, when do you think they've seen a lemur before? B, do you really think a lemur could, like, I'm assuming if we're categorizing animals, a lemur is, like, usually not the animal you would consider to be able to earthbend, if at all.
I wouldn't consider animals to be able to bend, period.
That's objectively wrong.
But I wouldn't.
I won the argument.
I wouldn't assume that animals outside of the original benders could be able to bend, period.
Okay, that is to my point.
Yes,
That-
it is
that-
to your point.
Yes, that's to my
That
point. It's
they're
ridiculous that they even would
incompetent
consider
for
it.
thinking that
We've dwelled
Momo
on
could
this for too
earthbend.
long.
We're moving on. They think Katara's earthbending too. They believe that Katara's earthbending, even though it's so clear she's wearing water tribe clothing. And how do I know that? Haru brings it up. He says to his mom, "Look at their clothes. Look at how weirdly they're dressed."
I mean, you look at the clothes that they are wearing, that's different than, can they see the airbending or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, they can see that they're clearly wearing
Yes.
Water Tribe clothing.
Yeah, furthermore, we talked about George Takai as the warden, and I think he does a really great job as the warden because this warden is very laughable. Like, he's supposed to be this very strict, like, being that kind of, like, controls everything, but he's just so incompetent and unstable. He gets mad at just about anything. As soon as Katara shows up on the ship or the prison, like, he gets mad at one of the prisoners for coughing.
Yep. He straight up gets, like, set off and then sends him to a week of solitary confinement for coughing.
Like, come on, dude. How unstable are you?
Very is the answer. And he also gets very upset over the difference between a buffalo and a bison, which there is a difference.
There's no difference.
No, there is. No, there is. A week of solitary confinement. Yeah, there is a difference.
I'm joking.
But
there's a difference between buffalo and bison.
it is not a reason to throw your captain overboard, which is another gross oversight.
And he doesn't even know that it's the captain.
He doesn't even know.
He said, "Wake the captain," and the other soldier that was there had to tell him that was the captain he threw overboard.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God.
He's incompetent. They had every opportunity to fight back against these incompetent people.
Yes.
But because they employed all of the other tactics of, oppression, they felt like they had no hope.
There we go. And that's the end of that topic. That is very well-rounded.
Yes, and which hope is the next point we want to talk about, the next theme in this episode.
Wow, did you just transition into
my
that?
first good transition.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This is the theme that I was talking about that is slapped across your face throughout the entire episode.
Yeah, it is. It's very obvious as soon as Katara gets on the island, to the prison, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it.
4 different things this episode.
When she gets to the prison and starts interacting with the prisoners on there, it's very obvious that the Earthbender's will has been broken on this ship. They have no hope that they are going to get out. And the quote we saw earlier is another testament to that. They just want to survive. They're hoping for the war to end so they can go home, and they're not taking it into their own hands.
Yeah.
And Katara stands up and I think makes a pretty eloquent speech, albeit a bit cheesy, but I think it's a good speech, and they just don't do anything.
The main point that Katara is trying to make is you can't just hope is the driving force for standing up for yourself and taking a stand against oppression, you know? And she especially wants to drive home the point that you can't just wait for hope to happen. You have to take it into your own hands, which I think is very powerful and says a lot, especially for a children's show.
Yeah, exactly. It also speaks a lot about her character. I mean, we'll talk about her character before.
are you saying we're going to learn more about Katara's character?
Yeah, but I think we should probably take a break first.
Okay, I'll see you then.
Okay, bye.
Hi,
Hello.
we're back.
We are back. Let's talk about some characters.
I can't believe I didn't see you in that break.
Yeah.
After we stopped recording, everything went black.
Everything went black. I just closed
For
my eyes
about
and walked out in the other room.
5 minutes, all of my senses were turned off.
Because I shut you off.
And that was the break.
Because I shut you off.
That was it.
Uh-huh.
Okay, let's get into Katara's character. We already talked about how she's the inspiration of hope. So why don't we dive into her?
Yeah, it's not like she's like the character that's focused on the entire episode.
Not like this episode is about her or anything.
Yeah, okay, let's dive in.
So Katara has a Katara's sense of self is very, very important to her. We see that in that her culture as a waterbender is so important. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And she believes that others should also be free to express their culture and their sense of self as well. And we see that in this quote that she says to Haru and his mother.
How can you say that? Haru has a gift. Asking him not to earthbend is like asking me not to waterbend. It's a part of who we are.
You know, in context, that seems like a little bit like overkill, I guess. It's like, well, yeah, Katara, like, no shit. But when you really think about the reason why that quote is in there, it really kind of just drives home the point of how important this is to her. And I think we've talked about this before. I think the first time we touched on it was like in the first or second episode. But it's important to her because it was literally taken away from her. Her culture was literally stripped from her, like when she was younger. And
almost the same situation happened to her. So she has compassion for it, but it also shows, I think, of her compassion towards other cultures. You know, it shows that she isn't closed-minded and is open to other cultures and other things.
Yes.
So that's something I just noticed right now.
Yes.
So that's another aspect of this.
Yeah. She also has a very strong sense of righteousness. When Haru gets arrested, she feels responsible and is very dead set on righting her wrong. Which I think is pretty inspiring. You know,
it is. It's what makes her such a likable character.
Yes.
It's because she has this strong sense of righteousness, has this like very, very strong moral compass. She knows what is right. To her, she knows what is right and what is wrong. And it is honestly inspiring how far she will go. But yeah, she wants justice for these earthbenders, and to her overwhelming sense of hope, or her, like, I would call it like a skill. I would call it like her skill to find the hope in every situation.
Yeah.
You know, is what makes her her. It's a very important part to her character.
Yeah, well, you said that her skill is finding hope, and it's also like her driving force. You know, like that's what kept her so optimistic in the Water Tribe. She said that in the very, very first, like, prologue.
First lines of
she
the
said
show.
she hasn't lost hope. And taking the hope that you need is what it takes to break free of the oppression. In her eyes, and I think that's really beautiful.
It really is.
We talked about how she gets herself arrested to help free Haru, which I think also speaks to her as a character that she wants to save everyone. She wants to help as many people as she can.
And not just the people that are convenient for her.
Yeah.
Like, she goes out of the way to save it, like sidetracks their entire thing to do this.
That's a really good example, actually, because the old man was quite literally presented in front of them. You know, that is something like, we stumbled across this person that we can save, you know? But she also, later in the episodes, goes out of her way to get herself arrested to help those characters. You know, it's not like, oh, Haru was arrested, I hope something good happens to him. Like, she forces herself to help them, you know?
And then when she gets herself arrested and she gets into the prison and finds just how helpless they are, or how helpless they feel, she goes out of her way to not give up on these people, to try and save all these people.
Yeah.
There's a couple quotes here that we want to look at. And yeah, let's play them right now.
I'm not leaving. I'm not giving up on these people.
We can't abandon these people. There has to be a way to
I
help.
think that's really, really inspiring. You know, I think that's how people who are in charge and people who have power should be behaving. You know, you should be doing what's best for the people. And Katara is using the power that she has, what little power she has, to help as many people as she can. And that is gonna
It's
make
amazing.
me cry. I can't even say it.
No, it should, like, I'm not saying it should make you cry, but it's like, it is inspiring. It's what makes her so likable and such a great character. Because in this episode, if you just take a little bit of time to think about her character, the things she is standing up for and her strong moral compass is a very good example to set for young audiences.
Yes.
That you should have a strong sense of what you believe in and be willing to back that up. And don't let other people oppress that. Don't let other people get that down.
Yeah. And
you know?
I'm actually going to get a little personal bit here, Sam.
Ooh.
Yeah. Helping people and saving people is very, very important to me. You know, I believe that, you know, if it's not hurting you, you should do everything that you can to help people. It's why I'm very into politics. I am very into the intricacies of how laws work, and they can either help or hinder people, and I'm very interested in that. And this was my favorite show as a kid, and Katara was my favorite character. So I really think that's something that I picked up from her, is that I feel very strongly about helping people that you can, and I think I got that from her.
Yeah, see, she's a fantastic role model.
She really
She
is.
really is. What a great
Gotta
character.
love Katara.
We stand Katara.
We're gonna move
We have no
on.
choice but to
The
stand.
behavior you exhibited was iconic, and we have no choice but to stand.
That's just her throughout, not just this
not just this episode, the
but
entire
just the whole
series.
But yeah, to close that out, we just see what lengths she is willing to go to stand up for what.
Yeah, well,
she
it's very
believes in.
important to her to protect people, and she will go to great lengths to protect these people and to stand up for what she believes in. She gets herself arrested, you know? Not very many people would do that.
And then chooses to stay in the
yes.
prison too. That like they're, you know, Sokka and Aang are come up with Appa. It's like, okay, I think it was like 12 hours or whatever.
Yes.
And it's just like, okay, it's time to go. And she's like, no, I'm staying until these people are
And
free.
Sokka even says, like, I hate it when you get like this.
It's like, so you've been like this
She has
before?
done this before.
Yeah. I wonder what she did. Like before, it was just like, I will not stand for you. I will not stand for you hunting these seals like this. Or so I don't know what it was.
I don't know. Which actually does kind of bring up a good point. Sokka says, I hate it when you get like this. We're not sure if he means that she's just being stubborn, which is also like one of her character traits. I would say Katara's often stubborn in a good way. Or if I hate it when you get like this, if the like this is like standing up and being all self-righteous.
Or a third option, Sokka's just being misogynistic again.
Very
I hate it when
valid.
you get emotional.
I hate it when you have girly feelings like hope.
That's the best take. My take was the best
No,
take.
that's the worst take. We're moving on. We've seen all this from Katara before, right? We've seen that she's hopeful. We've seen that she's willing to stand up for what she believes in. But this is the first time we see to what extent she is willing
We see
to.
real action
Yes.
this episode.
Yes.
You know, her putting her morals into practice, which is very, you can all day think about what you think is right and wrong in your head, but if you don't make the effort to be true to your, you know, morals and what you think, like, what's the use? And she actually goes out and is true to her morals and puts her thoughts into actions, which is, again, really important to show young audiences and old audiences. Actually, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter what kind of audience. It's very important to show people
But,
in
like,
general.
Emphasis on the younger
Yes.
audience.
I mean, it's made for children, so obviously. Let's move on to our next character, and that is Sokka.
Soka.
Shut up.
What movie?
Well, I think this is really funny. We see that he's like a little bit insecure when they're having this fake fight, and it's so obviously like this big blowout, obviously fake fight.
Like the best animation in the episode. That's
Oh my God,
like
it's
how
so
much
funny.
they committed to the bit. here.
Katara like makes fun of his ears, and he like plays into the bit at first, but then he like is actually like, okay, seriously, back off.
Seriously, back off.
Because he's a little bit hurt by it. And then after that, he makes fun of Momo's big ears, almost to like make himself feel better that he doesn't. I think that's hilarious. That's so stupid.
It is. I mean, we also see that he is like very, very strategic and very smart in that way, because he's able to come up with a pretty complex plan and strategy to try and get these prisoners, break them out of prison, which is super impressive.
Well, he didn't just do that, too. He came up with the plan to get Katara arrested. So he came up with two complex plans and strategies. He came up with the fake earthbending, and then he came up with like freeing the coal. And
he probably wrote the script for the argument too. I just thought about that. So it was just like he wrote the script, and he was just like, "Oh wait, I'm actually hurt by this." Like, "Oh wait, I didn't say it out loud."
I will fully buy into that. I love that. I love that.
That's
take.
hilarious. Yeah, he's a smart boy.
Yeah,
he really is.
We didn't really talk that much about Aang. I don't think there's much to talk about Aang, but Sam, was one of these two characters your favorite, or was
we
there
can't
another
really
one?
we can't really say that right now, because that is getting to favorite character talk.
Okay, well, let's take a quick break then and get right into that, because I want to know.
Okay. All right, Tyler, I think it is time for us to share who our favorite characters were. Will you share yours first?
I will share mine first. Mine was Sokka.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
I thought he was funny.
Do you recall we just spent 20 minutes talking about how great Katara is?
I thought Sokka was funny. Okay. Sam, who was your favorite character?
You have nothing more than that?
Nope. Sam, who was your favorite character?
My favorite character was Katara, because obviously, like, I think what she does in this episode is super inspiring. And, like, we talked about it, like, it's such an important message to send for, you know, for younger audiences and things like that. And she's just so likable. I liked her speech. It was pretty cheesy, but I was very eloquent and obvious, and also, you know, just expresses how she feels about the whole situation. And it's just so inspiring. I just love her so much. And the more you think about her, the better she gets. So obviously Katara is my favorite character of this episode. So we've shared characters. What is your verdict for this episode?
Sam, I want to give these listeners a little bit of backstory. This is our third time recording this episode because we had technical difficulties.
Tell them that.
We had technical difficulties the first 2 times, and we lost those recordings. And every single time I changed my rating.
Really?
Yes, I changed my rating every single time. So this is now my 3rd rating, and I think it's probably the most valuable because I've thought about it a lot, and we keep rewatching this episode over and over again.
Okay.
So I wrote this down because I want to be very clear with my thoughts.
Okay.
I think this episode could have been a 10 or like maybe even a 9, you know, because the writing is really, really good, quote unquote. But I'm giving this episode a 3.
That's a big disparity.
Yes. So I'm giving it a 3 because this writing is, quote unquote, really good. We just spent the last 40 minutes talking about how amazing this writing is. But ultimately, I can't justify how annoyed I was with Katara the entire time. The themes and character building are really strong, but Katara just comes off as annoying the entire time, and that I can't, when I'm just watching the episode, I can't pick up any of the good parts that they put into this episode. I can't pick up the good parts about the oppression. I can't pick up the good parts about hope. I can't pick up the good parts about Katara's character. I'm just constantly focused on how annoying she is. And I think that even though the rest of it is really good, if you can't get me hooked on this episode and see how good the writing is, you failed as a writer.
Damn. Okay.
That's my hot take.
That is your hot take.
Sam?
Will you die on this hill?
No.
Okay. No, I can be convinced otherwise.
I can be convinced, but so far that is my take.
Okay.
Sam, what is your rating?
My rating, I agree with some of your points. But all in all, I think just for the content alone and how just great the writing is and just, the attention to historical context and things like that, I don't know. I think this is such a well-written episode, so I am giving it an 8. Plus, when I watched it, like the 3 times we watched it, I was never bored. I think there are like good jokes, there's like good humor in it, but mostly I'm just like, maybe I just like the plot style of just like breaking people out of places or whatever, but I found it very compelling.
Yeah.
So I'm giving it an 8. It's a great episode.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I mean, I remember when we were watching the episode, I was literally sitting there rolling my eyes and cracking jokes at every single line that was happening. And the first time we were watching it, you were like very invested and you had to tell me to stop talking because you wanted to pay attention to what was going on.
That was so long ago, I don't even remember.
It was really long ago.
All right, that's all we have for this episode. A huge thank you goes out to our producer and audio engineer, Aaron Bogen, along with his production company, Sonovent Productions, and Annie Galloway, who made our cover art and is our graphic designer. Also, a huge thank you to Low Art on YouTube for making an avatar video that we could connect to and build off of to use as our research. We'll include a link to their video in the description of this episode.
Make sure you join us next week. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It's super helpful to us. Don't forget to tell a friend about the show, or share the show if you really like it.
If you want to get more involved with our Avatar content, please feel free to reach out to us. Send us questions about the show, fan theories you may have, what you thought of the episode, something we mentioned that you liked, or something we didn't mention that you wish we would have talked about. Our email is airbenderpod@gmail.com, or you can tweet us or follow us on Instagram, both at airbenderpod. That's AIR Bender POD.
If you want to keep in touch and stay updated in the Avatar fandom, make sure you join our Facebook community. Community. Make sure you join our Facebook community page, and that's how you know that we do the credits every single time.
Yeah!
You can find us on Facebook at the Avatar Podcast Yip Yip Community, and you can discuss the show with other fans and ourselves.
I'm Sam Albus, the co-host and co-writer of this show. You can follow me on Twitter at Sam_Albus or on Instagram at SamAlbus. My last name is spelled ALBUS.
I'm Tyler Strandberg, the host, creator, and co-writer of the show. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram, both at TylerJohn7. That's TYLERJON and the number 7.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
That was really low energy.
Bye!